Call meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Lawson. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Powell.
Here.
Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Councilmember Kraft.
Here.
Councilmember Clark. Councilmember Goff.
Present.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances. A. David Gutierrez. Come up to the microphone, state your name and your address, and you got 5 minutes.
Dave Gutierrez, 413 West Cambridge Road in Belton, Missouri. I'd like to thank the council for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Dave Gutierrez, like I said. I have resided on West Cambridge Road between Scott and Cleveland since 1990. Over the years, the traffic on West Cambridge has increased considerably, and with it, the speeds at which people travel. Not surprisingly, private and commercial vehicles, as well as school buses, regularly exceed the posted speed limit of 25. However, I have constantly taken note of the road traffic. I have noticed law enforcement and the city of Belton vehicles exceeding the speed limits as well. When my family and I moved into our home, the view from the south side of our house was a well-wooded area. Growth had been inevitable, and now more cars filter onto West Cambridge Road from Westover Road, creating that much more traffic. The construction over the creek has provided a much-needed improvement on the road. I give credit to the engineer, Ryan Hupp, and the road crew that he worked with for a job well done. Unintended consequences of the road enhancement has been increased driving speeds by many travelers across the creek. It is this a concern that brings me here tonight. Speed is one of the most common causes of road accidents, injuries, and deaths. It is mostly due to drivers' negligence when they don't slow down where the traffic volume is high or vehicle and pedestrians are very close. What is the solution to better manage the speed issues on West Cambridge and to protect the citizens of Belton? I'd like you to consider two options that I have researched: radar speed signs and speed cushions. Radar speed signs, according to the Wikipedia, generally constructed of LEDs, will displace the speed as motorists approach. The purpose of the radar speed sign is to slow cars down by making drivers aware that they are driving at the speeds above the posted limit. They are used as traffic calming devices in addition, or to instead physical devices such as speed bumps. Regularly, I pass one on Cleveland Avenue, just past the Mill Creek 5th and 6th grade center, a well-traveled area. It is a very effective reminder to me to check my speed. I suspect it would have the same result on West Cambridge, another well-traveled area. Secondly, speed cushions. They are not to be confused with speed bumps, such as those on Bradford Place near the post office. According to the National Association of Transportation Officials, speed cushions are either speed bumps or speed tables that includes wheel cutouts to allow large vehicles to pass unaffected while reducing passenger car speeds. They can be offset to allow unimpeded passage of emergency vehicles and are typically used on key emergency response routes. Speed cushions also slow cars down between 15 to 20 miles per hour, and they are innovative solutions that can help slow speeders, protect pedestrians in roads without slowing down the emergency vehicles. I hope the City Council will give this issue serious consideration. It has been a long-standing problem for the welfare and the safety of the residents and those that travel on the route. Again, thank you for your time to afford me and to presenting my concerns. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns that you may have. I look forward to your response at this situation. Note that I also emailed Miss Andrea Cunningham my presentation, also attachment of clarification and references and benefits along with the photos that I have.
She forwarded that to all of us today too. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Is that it?
Any questions for Mr. Gutierrez? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
B, Bob Schmidt, Aaron's Family Fun Center. The Bob Schmidt.
Hi there. My name's Bob Schmidt. I own Aaron's right down the road. Every March, we have a fundraiser. I think this was the 10th year in March 4th, and it just gets bigger and bigger. We raised, geez, the damn thing rings all afternoon. Why not now? Sorry. $68,000 in 5 hours. It's really, it's the result of the small businesses around town. I know Perry, he helped us with some donations. Councilman Clark, he's involved. It just gets bigger and bigger, and it's the small businesses around town that really make this happen. I reached out to Chief Lyons. I guess he's not here tonight. Got something going, and asked him if, this was last fall, because last year we did this, and I think we raised $20,000 for the purchase of a police dog, and it was really the same story I heard at Raymore. We were there last week. Everything's so expensive. We didn't have enough money to make it happen, and so we decided to support our first responders again in 2023, and so we donated $20,000 to the Raymore Police Department. They're buying some tactical software, which is really, really cool. You guys need to collaborate. He brought me up there and tried that. Great training tool, $20,000 for hopefully to finalize the purchase of Stryker, the police dog, right, Mayor?
That's right.
And we helped the local VFW post out too. So kind of cool. And so with that, I'd like to, I got a check for 20 grand if someone wants it. If I get Norman and Norman together, we maybe get a picture. Who wants the money?
Any unfinished business? New business. A, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-25.
An ordinance amending sections 5-1-5, 18-8, 40-1H, and 40-310 of the Unified Development Code related to expanded land uses in commercial and industrial zoning districts.
Go ahead.
Yep, before this evening are land use code updates.
We need to have a motion, please.
Oh,
Present.
yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Aye.
Um,
Wait a minute. Does he get, yeah, you talk now. Go ahead.
Before you this evening are land use code updates to expand certain land uses and land use groups to additional zoning districts in the city. These updates include adding definitions to section 1-5 of the UDC for new arts and crafts manufacturing and production uses, amending the North Scott Corridor overlay land uses as referenced in section 18-8, amending the land use table in section 40-1, and adding special use standards in 40-3 for limited manufacturing and production uses in certain commercial zoning districts. As part of this amendment, most public and civic uses will be expanded to be permitted in commercial and industrial zoning districts throughout the city. New arts and crafts manufacturing and production uses will be permitted in all commercial and light industrial zoning districts. Small retail sales will be expanded to be permitted in business park and light industrial zoning districts, and limited manufacturing and production uses may be permitted with a special use permit in C2 and C3 zoning districts, but would be limited to no more than 10,000 square feet of manufacturing and production area. Staff believes that these text amendments are in the best interest of the city, as these amendments would accommodate a wider range of land uses and businesses, which helps support the community and economic development. It also gives additional opportunities for small businesses to start up, grow, and expand in the city. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 2nd, at which no one spoke in favor or in opposition to the request. The Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval, and staff does as well.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. B, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-26.
An ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Seventh Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 511 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2021-7 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
At this point, Mayor, I'd call the public hearing to order prior
There
to
is.
Matt's presentation.
All right, I call a public hearing to order. Oh, here it is, I'm sorry, man. Public hearing regarding the proposed First Amendment to the Seventh Amendment is to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2021-7 pursuant to section 353.110.3 subparagraph 2 RSMO. Public hearing is open. Anybody wish to speak at the public hearing can come up here and talk.
Yep, this is a request to amend a previously approved tax abatement project in Old Town Belton at 511 Main Street, which is the location of Lily's Play and Stay. In 2021, the project was approved for $116,000 of improvements. The applicant is requesting to make an additional $100,000 in improvements, including $50,000 for exterior window replacements. The remaining $50,000 will be interior improvements to the lobby, plumbing, electrical, bathroom, and painting. The Old Town Belton Board recommended unanimous approval of the project on April 19th, 2023.
Any questions?
From the public or from us?
From both.
Oh.
Knowing there's no public that's
Okay.
came up yet, so go ahead.
Have any of these been completed and of the 7 or 10 or 13 or whatever that we have?
Believe the last I checked, I believe there were 3 that were completed and have been certified with the county.
Okay, so what's the criteria? I mean, they come and they say, okay, I've finished. Does somebody go out and check off the list of things that they promised to do? Is that it?
Yeah, we review all of the receipts and make sure that it matches the project costs that they were awarded, and then we would go out and just confirm that all the work was completed.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else from the public wish to speak at the public hearing? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Any other council, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. C, motion approving the first reading of the bill 2023-27.
An ordinance approving the 16th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 816 Second Street project as redevelopment project 2023-3 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. A public hearing regarding the proposed 16th Amendment to the Old Town of Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2023.03 pursuant to section 353.110.3 subparagraph 2 RSMO is open. Anybody wishing to speak will come to the microphone and speak.
Yep, this is a request for a new tax abatement project in Old Town Belton at 816 Second Street. The applicant is requesting approval for $57,500 in exterior improvements to the property, which would include siding replacement on the house and detached garage, roof replacement on the detached garage, painting the garage and house trim, and relocating the electrical meter. The Old Town Belton Board recommended unanimous approval of the project amendment on April 19th, 2023.
Anybody from the council wish to speak? Anybody from the public wish to speak at the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Any other council? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. D, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-28.
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of an allocation of funds and execution of a grant agreement with the Missouri Department of Public Safety for a total of $20,000.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Missouri Division of Fire Safety had offered up two different grants available from ARPA funds. You may remember you guys were already presented and approved the EMS grant that we were awarded. That's been a month or so ago. This one was a little bit slower to come through, but we were also awarded this $20,000 grant. And so this is just going to allow us to continue our gear replacement program that we already have. So it's going to help fund that this year. The grant came really at no cost to us up front because we were able to use in-kind costs from last fiscal year from gear that we bought last year.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Well, looking through this, first of all, I have no problem with getting the money, but it says that the grantee will, the state hereby encourages the grantee to adopt and enforce policies that ban text messaging while driving. And then on the next page, it says, the grantee shall initiate reasonable steps or comply with the Treasurer's directives to ensure that the LEP, that's limited English proficiency persons, have meaningful access to its programs, services, and activities. So do we have either of those, or are we working on those, or did we?
Well, for question one, that would be consistent with our policy anyway. For people, I mean, our policy wouldn't allow you to text and drive anyway. I don't know if that, I would assume that means for any city personnel. So that would be consistent with our policies. To the question number two, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Patrick knows off the top of his head, but.
It's on page 54.
At this point, the city does comply with all Treasury guidance regarding of allowing our programs to be utilized by non-English speaking residents, but city staff will go back and confirm and pull the policy and make sure that it's up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. E, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-29.
An ordinance approving an access agreement between the Port Authority of Kansas City and the Belton Fire Department.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
Many of you have probably seen this before as well. It's a formality. We try to take advantage of any structures that we can to do training in. And we've partnered with the Port Authority for several years now on the old base housing. We typically like to do longer time frames, especially since this has to be an ordinance because they're a governmental agency. But I think that their future development plans have started to limit them, and so they make us do this every year. So this is just a formality so that we can have access and we have all the proper documents in place before we go in and train.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. F, motion approving resolution R23-48.
A resolution approving the on-call professional services contract for geotechnical, environmental, and other services between the City of Belton and Professional Engineer Consultants, PA, for a term of 3 years with the option of up to 5 subsequent one-year periods, not to exceed 8 years.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
So I'd like to let you know that this one, F and G, are the same item. We issued an RFQ, request for qualifications, for people who can do geotechnical and environmental services, professional services for the city. Please excuse my voice. It's been a rough couple days. Basically, what we end up not doing very many, the city itself, very few geotechnical services throughout the year. In our contracts we always make it where the contractor has to provide those services to us. But in odd cases, like when we did the dog park, we actually designed and built that ourselves. We have to go through a process to hire geotechnical services. For instance, when we did the asbestos abatement, we have to go through a process to hire somebody. This process can take up to 8 weeks and still has to come to council for approval every time we issue an RFQ. So we issued an RFQ for on-call professional services for geotechnical companies to provide these tests. These tests do anywhere from concrete tests to asphalt tests to tell you the strength of soils, tells us how much cement treated base we need to have, and those type of items. And so that's what we have. We just have them so we can maybe 3 or 4 times a year be able to call them to get that service, get it done quickly, because sometimes we don't know we need it then also we need to do it. We don't have 2 months to wait and write it up, select somebody, bring it to council and get the job done. And so that's what it does. We actually selected everybody who submitted. There's 4 companies that submitted, only 2 would sign the contract. And so we selected everybody, so we didn't cut anybody out. I'd be happy to answer any questions you
Any
have.
questions? Go ahead.
Well, in your whereases, and you did mention it too, one of the big things is, since we're tearing down stuff, is asbestos testing and inspection. And yet, in their list of everything that they provide, they don't even mention the word asbestos. There's no, I mean, there's stuff about soil and about testing metals and all that. Do you think that's a mistake that they left it out, or are you sure these guys do asbestos, or?
Not everyone does everything, and so that's why you usually have to have multiple people hired. So if you need one person to do one test, you have to make sure they do them. So these are the only 2 companies that submitted at this point. So if we still need to get someone else to do asbestos, we can hire somebody else. Terracon is the company that's actually doing asbestos testing for us now because they're licensed to do it.
Okay,
But they did not submit on this.
right, yeah,
Geotechnical firms are the firms in the construction business that get sued the most.
yeah,
I'm just going to be upfront about it. So when they go to want to sign a contract, their attorneys go through every single word in it very, very closely because the opportunity for something to go wrong is great for them.
sure,
It's a
yeah,
great risk.
yeah. Yeah, I noticed these.
It shows on page 63 and 64 that this firm does asbestos testing.
Yeah, but look at page 80. There's the breakout of everything they do. There's concrete, there's core compression, there's metal, there's jack calibration, whatever that is. Oh, I guess it's calibrating your jack. But I don't see the word asbestos there. So anyway, but I agree with you. And the second company, I forget what they were called. The first one was called Professional. Second one didn't even have a list of services, so maybe they do have it.
Yes, they do. They're the ones
Do.
we actually have now.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G, a motion approving resolution R23-49.
A resolution approving the on-call professional services contract for geotechnical, environmental, and other services between the City of Belton and Terracon Consultants, Inc. for a term of 3 years with the option of up to 5 subsequent 1-year periods, not to exceed 8 years.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. H, motion approving resolution R 2023-50.
A resolution formally accepting the Tradition 6 Plat subdivision new public infrastructure of 1,315 feet of sanitary sewer, 1,210 feet of 8-inch water line, 1,445 feet of storm sewer, 4,082 lane feet of street, and a 2-year maintenance bond in the amount of $979,900.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
As with all new plats, when they're finished, we bring them to the council for approval once they've been inspected, and we accept them that they meet our standards. We bring them to the council for full acceptance. This includes the sanitary sewer, the stormwater, water lines, and the streets. And so this one has been reviewed and accepted by the city. It is the last plat for Traditions.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-30.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the Fifth Amendment to the tax increment financing contract between the City of Belton, Missouri and Herman Enterprises, LLC for implementation of Project 3 of the Southtown Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan as amended.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. Yes, forgive me for my voice as well. I have allergies and sinus infection stuff going, just very similar to Greg. But yeah, this amendment essentially is a 2-year extension to conclude what is required of it. And so that's all we're asking the council to approve, is just giving these, giving this developer 2 more years to get this going. I have met with the developer recently. There appears to be some new movement on the site that is in question, and there may be a further ask from the council to amend this again based on what they might be trying to bring into the area. But we're not at that point yet, so seeing as the current amendment expires essentially on May 31st, which is tomorrow, that if they didn't have it finished as of tomorrow, they'd be in default. So we recommend that we go ahead and, we don't gain anything by them going into default. In fact, that would be more of a hindrance to the city than actually helping us. So we just would recommend that we would just move this, give them 2 more years, and give them a chance to fulfill their end of the bargain. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Is this the plot next to Menards or across the street from Menards?
Across the street,
Across the street.
Okay.
where the dental place is, and the vacant lot just to the east of that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. J, a motion approving resolution R 23-51.
A resolution approving a services agreement with the Sports Facilities Advisory, LLC.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Council members, once again, this is a sports tourism market study. When we were doing the budgeting process earlier, you'll recall that we set aside about $25,000, I believe, for a market study to see what kind of holes in the market there might be in the Kansas City metro area for a major sports tourism asset, such as whether it's a big, big gym for volleyball courts or basketball courts or fields for soccer, baseball, whatever, or a combination of those. So essentially what I'm bringing to you today is they've already started moving forward on this. It is within my authority for expenditures, but I wanted to bring it to you guys formally because I want to make sure the public understands what we're doing with this. We're under the budget. We're $18,500 is what the study's going to cost us. We should have the results back in August, and the agreement itself essentially is just a payment for services. So that's why, again, we went ahead and moved forward with it. But I would like your formal blessing and for the public to know what's going on.
Present.
Any questions?
Second.
We already
Did we
did
not
that.
present second?
You wonder why I get
Do it
screwed
again.
up. Any questions?
I guess
Go
just
ahead.
briefly, my question would be, how will parks be looped into this process and kept aware of the findings?
We had an initial call already, and Brian and I sat in on it together, so they are already looped in on the process, and so they will be, we'll work in concert as we go through this.
Perfect, thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. K, a motion approving resolution R 23-52.
A resolution clarifying the deadline for the submission of the final approved Belton Parks and Recreation Board budget to the City Council.
Present.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, Council, this was discussed during our joint meeting with the Parks Board. The idea of giving them an extension of time to get their final approved budget to the council. Obviously, the charter has within it a deadline for them to give us a proposed budget, and that's all that's addressed in the charter. So what we're asking is the council in the past has interpreted that, in the recent past has interpreted that to mean that the park board has to have their essentially their final budget given to the council as of December essentially. We are asking that we give them more time formally for the final budget to be submitted to the council, and we've agreed on a February 1st deadline, and I believe that it was originally going to be March 1st, and then there were some concerns addressed or brought up during our joint meeting. And Brian and I both think it's reasonable that we have February 1st as the deadline, and then that puts us in line because the city manager's proposed budget, we anticipate that being, the first meeting in February moving forward. So that's really good timing. I'm glad to stand for any more questions on that.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, one motion non-available to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for the item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We never get those through. Communications from any city council. Go ahead, or Chris.
I don't think I have anything tonight.
Allison.
Okay. Just a couple quick parks-related updates. The outdoor water park opened this weekend, and I took my daughter out on Sunday and saw the new aquatics director, Dana, on site working hard. She even had her laptop out in the shade doing some other admin work while we were there. So excited to have that open, and I hope everyone will heed the new rules, one of which was from the county that no minors under 14 can be dropped off without adult supervision. I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting, but we just had a real pleasant experience, so I hope people will get out and enjoy that amenity. Additionally, there is Summerfest this weekend at Memorial Park. There's something for everybody, all ages. Parks also has Theater in the Park the following weekend, June 9th and 10th. I think one's The Little Mermaid and one is You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. There's also a mud run for kids, June 17th. So lots of activity going on at parks. I think that's everything oh wait, let me mention one more thing. There's something called the Pirate Dash. I think that might be June 17th as well, and that is 24th, thank you. Part of the Belton Educational Foundation. I'm on their community advisory council, so just wanted to shout out that org. And the 150th included the Carry A Nation 5K, and lots of folks turned out for that. And I think 5Ks are a great thing to offer in the city, and so that one is in good support of the Educational Foundation. So if anybody feels like walking or running, that is the 24th. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, right. Perry, you have anything?
The Ward 1 had a Crime Watch meeting at High Blue Park in the pavilion. We had the Missouri Highway Patrol there. We had Chief Lyons and Chief Scott, Chief Lyons and Chief Sapp of the fire department there. We had the Belton Police there. It was a pretty good turnout, probably around 50 people or so. And I'm not sure what we were accomplishing, but we learned a lot from talking to all the law enforcement that was there.
Nothing at this time.
One slight thing on Allison's, the run that happened last year with the 150 is going to be repeated in August 12th, I think it is. So there'll be two runs this summer, 5K. Well, from the TDD Transportation District, the Mullen Expansion Project met May 17th. We meet monthly. We authorized $5,000 to move a tornado siren pole out of the way of the new proposed road, and $32,000 to redraw a storm sewer line that is impacted by a new Traditions Road that wasn't anticipated during the original Olson engineering. The financial advisors are trying to match the bond purchase date with start of construction and global interest rates, so they're hard at work to finance this whole thing. On May 25th, there was a Codes Enforcement Advisory Committee meeting. We provided staff with recommendations regarding residents mowing ditches and creeks and banks and right-of-ways. I don't know how many of you have seen it. It's actually in Ward 2. Ward 3, West Belton Creek. In 2010, they upgraded to a concrete-based creek, and the property owners were sent a letter by the, at that time, Public Works Director, and they told residents, your responsibility to maintain these slopes is up to you. You are not expected to maintain the vegetation on the creekside slopes." That was Jeff Fisher. He also implied in the letter that natural, not groomed or mowed, vegetation is necessary for erosion control. But in 2021, there was one resident who didn't like this growing up. So the city came out and mowed it, and then sent a letter to the residents, just the opposite, said it's up to you to maintain these. So, and then about a month later, they started receiving code violation letters. So some of them are trying to mow it, but none of them are as old as me, but a lot of them are not in great physical health to be mowing slopes that are over 25%. And the recommended safety for at least riding mowers is 15% maximum. So, in weed eating, there's a slippery mesh underneath the grass. So if you are trying to maintain your position on the slope, it's difficult doing that too. So Matt, to his credit, listened to all this and said he'd go back and consider the safety of people having to do this. And I think he said, but I'm not sure, I didn't write it down, that for now they are not going to be thrown into court for their code violations until he comes up with a determination on this. Meadow Gardens, which I think is in Ward 1, has apparently got the same case. Their developer is mowing for the homeowners association, but he's also having, or she is also having difficulty with the mowing conditions and wanted some relief for that. So the SEAC, Codes Enforcement Advisory, commented these slopes over 15% are unsafe to mow by residents. And again, Matt took these under or our recommendations under advisement. We provided staff with comments on residential parking on unpaved surfaces. Right now, you have to have a paved surface to park in the back or in the side of your yard. And we ask, again, for the staff, Matt, to consider revised ordinances that would take screening into account and maybe allow some of this to be, some vehicles to be parked on unpaved ground if they were screened properly. There was considerable discussion about the rental inspection program and the possible elimination of the requirement that all units be inspected at least once every 5 years. Several of the members had watched the March 28th council meeting we had, and they were frustrated this requirement was downplayed at that meeting and eventually removed when SEAC had strong reasons for including it in the program. So they encouraged Matt to bring the program back to the council on a schedule that would allow the program to get started effective next summer, July 2024. So those are the two meetings I attended. That's it.
Go ahead.
I will yield my time to Councilmember Lawson if she had something else to add.
I don't know how you perceive that, but thank you. We could use some more cornhole teams for Summerfest. And Mike Miller, Park Board member, was kind enough to remind me of that, and I forgot. Thank you both for the assist.
I saw him trying to get your attention, so that's how.
Are you going to yield your time to Councilman Richardson?
I still have time? Because I can go another hour.
No, you don't have that much time. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I did have one thing. Memorial Day yesterday, the cemetery looked really good. I got to help a little bit out there, but there was a lot of people that came, and it really looked good. So there's a lot of work that goes into all that.
All right, you're up.
I yielded my time.
Oh, okay, you're done then. Oh, you gotta talk. Go ahead.
And I can yield my time too. I don't have anything to say this week.
Okay, thank you. Only thing I got is, hope everybody had a good weekend, Memorial Day. Hope everybody got to spend time with friends and family. The other thing I got is city manager and I spent 3 days in Vegas earlier last week and at a big mega retail conference, and it was quite impressive. And we got a few leads and a few things that we're working on, and obviously nothing that we can broadcast today. So So hopefully it went good, and I think it did, so we'll know here in the future, so. Go ahead.
I do have a few things, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to share with the public, if they hadn't seen the social media posts that we've had so far, that showed that Belton, the city of Belton, is the second fastest growing city in the state in 2022, and the fastest on the Missouri side of the metro area. So Belton is starting to grow at a fast clip, and so it's going to be important that we take steps necessary to ensure that we're growing in the right manner that can help preserve. We want the growth. We also want to preserve the small town feel we've got here. So we need to be very deliberate about how we approach that, I believe. So, but that's good news. Center 301 had its ribbon cutting recently, and Encore is having its ribbon cutting on June 22nd. And these two complexes are providing much needed housing relief in our community. Much more is needed, though. These two should open the door for further housing development, as they serve as proof that market demand exists, even at a higher price point than what developers may have in the past thought they could get out of Belton. And so I think that's good news, because even at the higher end, if we get housing, more housing supply, that actually loosens things up at the lower ends of the housing market in the long run. If we still have too much demand and not enough supply, it's not going to matter much. But the more housing supply that we get, the better we're gonna be in the long run. Also, MML annual conference is September 10th through the 13th. I want to remind each of you that if you are wanting to attend, to make sure you let us know so as quickly as possible, so we can get that booked for you. And then we also are reviewing our development review processes and timeline, and we're actually going to have a meeting tomorrow, a staff meeting tomorrow, to discuss that. We want to make sure that we're being as development friendly as is prudent. We have realized that we have one of the longer processes in the metro area, and that could be turning away potential developers who go where there's lower hanging fruit elsewhere. And so we want to ensure that we become that low hanging fruit when, again, if we need more housing, we want to make sure that we're being easy to work with for developers to do so. So that's all of my notes for today. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Items for review and discussion. Item A, digital billboard, SUP.
Yeah, we have received a request to convert a static billboard to a digital billboard. This would be the billboard adjacent to I-49 that's just north of the Hampton Inn. That does require a special use permit to be approved, which will be presented at the Planning Commission at a public hearing on June 20th, and then it will come before City Council in July.
Any questions?
Do you have an idea about what it's going to be used for and who?
It would just be for commercial advertising, just standard billboard. It just allows them to have additional advertising on there as it rotates through.
Mm-hmm. So not a one particular...
No, it wouldn't be for any particular business.
Anybody else? Item B, Compass Memorandum of Understanding.
Yeah, council members, we will be bringing forward to you in the near future, in the next meeting most likely, and I want to get some feedback from you on a memorandum of understanding between the City of Belton Police Department and Compass Health Network. The concept is that we would be embedding a mental health professional in our police department to help handle calls that are designated mental health right away. At dispatch level, between communication between dispatch and police, it is easy to identify repeat offenders who might be a mental health or repeat calls that might have a mental health component to it. Let's put it that way. And so we think that if we are better equipped to handle those calls by having someone embedded with our staff who's a trained professional in mental health, and not just requiring our police to try and make split-second decisions sometimes on, when dealing with folks who might need just some mental health assistance rather than a police assistance. We think that we can better serve our community, and so we think this is a way of being a better community partner by not just requiring our police department to do so. And so it's kind of a pilot program. We have written for a grant to help us fund this. The grant, we're hoping to hear back in the next few months, could fund the entirety of it if we get it. But even if it doesn't, I think the police department has expressed that, or Scott from the police department has expressed that he is in favor of us finding a way to fund this with an open position unless we're fully staffed. So at least as a pilot program to see how it goes, and if it goes well, then maybe we can consider expanding it in the future.
He was first.
Go ahead.
This is a little bit like something I've mentioned before about having a social worker with PD or on city staff. So would their services include like social work, resource finding type work, not just reacting to calls?
Potentially, yes. I mean, the concept of us working with Compass Mental Health or Compass Health Network is that they have a lot of services that they provide, and so it's an easy connection for us to help funnel folks who might have needs that would be in their realm rather than in the city's realm of expertise. So we hope that as we're responding to potential calls for service that normally would go through PD, that we can, yes, we're hoping to funnel those to the right adequate resources that are there. Now, I don't know how that looks long term, and I can't give you a 100% delineation on how that's going to work, but that's the intention, is that we are trying to do the right thing by the people that we're trying to serve. So kind of, yes, I didn't really answer your question, but I think that's the direction we're headed.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Go ahead.
In this, will there be additional funding for specialized training with the mental health professional?
Potentially. I mean, it depends. I mean, right now we're just writing a grant to fund the position, and the position would it'd be a new position, and Compass would help us. We would try and fill that position through a screening process, and so we're hoping to have someone who has got some training already when we hire them, and if we need to keep adding more money for training in the future if this is successful, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but we don't have any money in our budget this year for training per se, but again, it's kind of a pilot program, so if that's where we need to go, I think we should be open to that.
And do we have a say-so on...
Mike.
I'm on my mic.
Yeah, but you keep turning and you lose yourself.
Do we have a say-so on the requirements for the position?
Well, we are working on a job posting, and so between PD and Compass Health, we're planning to come up with a full-fledged job description. Did you have some expertise you wanted to lend? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I just know that the general social worker doesn't necessarily have the requirements to be able to work in that type of setting effectively.
Understood.
In crisis mode.
Understood.
They can setting up case management services and so on and so forth, but that's a little bit different when you're in crisis mode at a hostage situation, and so I would think that we would want to make sure that the person that we hire has some training if they're not coming in with that, because that could actually be more harmful in certain situations.
We're not gonna just cut someone loose and let them answer calls on their own. They'd be embedded with PD, so they would potentially respond to a call with a uniformed officer. At least as we start this program out, just that way, if it's more crisis, then we have someone at least there for some safety. That said, I guess it depends on what's out there. We're going to be marketing this position as an embedded mental health professional with our police department. So the hope is that we would find someone that has more expertise in what we're looking for. But again, that depends on the availability and who's looking for jobs, and it just kind of depends on the level of expertise. I guess could vary on what might be available.
Go ahead.
Well, this agreement, proposed agreement, mentions Clinton, but is this the same people in Raymore?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
They serve a wide area, and they have a place in Raymore, yes.
Go
The
ahead.
corporate office is in Clinton, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Item C, marijuana sales tax.
All right, this is our last item on the workshop. I wanted to kind of get some direction from the council on where we want to go. Recently, the voters approved a sales tax for marijuana, obviously, and we're starting for recreational marijuana. And that revenue we should start seeing that in the reports here anytime now, whenever the next month's worth of reports are available. And I haven't checked in the last few days, so it's possible it's even out there already. But we recognize that we won't know what kind of revenue that's going to mean to us for a little while. The first month, I'm going to venture to say, is not going to be reliable data on actual habits and how much revenue is going to be generated. So I know that one of the biggest concerns and skepticisms that were brought to light during the election process was, where's this money going to go? And as of now, it's not allocated anywhere. It would just go into the general fund, essentially. And so I'm just recommending that we temporarily might allocate it somewhere. One place that I think it makes a lot of sense, because it wouldn't matter whether it's $200,000 over the course of a year or $800,000 or whatever that number might be, is economic development, because there are a lot of economic development uses that we could find for that. And so if we parked it there temporarily, once we have about 6 to 8 months worth of data and get a better idea of what the actual spending trends are, revenue trends are, then we can come up with a more permanent solution for this revenue. And so that's just something that to throw out there. And if you guys are interested in that, we will bring it forward in the form of legislation in a future meeting. And if you don't want to go that direction, that's fine too. So I wanted to get some discussion going on that.
Go ahead.
I'm for it.
Go ahead.
Good point, Joe. We don't know how much it's going to be. Park it somewhere and we can make better decisions later. Good idea.
I would also throw out the sidewalk replacement program the city has done previously, starting to gather some funds for something like that. That's still a resident concern I hear regularly, especially in Ward 3 with all the schools and all the gaps in the sidewalks around them.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go back to the poll we took through ward meetings and everything, and look at some of the top considerations, one being sidewalks and a few other things. I don't think any of the top 5 were economic development, but maybe people don't understand exactly what that is.
Economic development is very open-ended and purposely so. And I think that I would definitely make an argument that even doing sidewalks can have an impact on economic development. So I don't know that would restrict it from going there necessarily.
Okay.
Everybody good with that? All right. Motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.1 and the leasing and purchasing or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610.21.2, and the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
We have 3 presents and 1 second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson,
Aye.
Goff,
Aye.
Powell,
Yes.
Richardson,
Aye.
Pryan,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes, motion approved.